And essentially what it does is it limits gatherings, whether they be public events or private, within the city of San Marcos to less than 10 people. So 10 or more is what it seeks to prohibit. And that applies to commercial establishments where people tend to gather, and in private events as well. There's a distinction in the order between restaurants and bars. Bars are forced to close if that's all they are is a bar. There's no food service component of their business. If there are a restaurant that has a bar inside of it, they are allowed to stay open. Also, restaurants that don't have a bar inside of them are allowed to stay open. They just have to take measures to make sure that they can limit people in each room, each dining room or kitchen or prep room, to no more than 10 people. We're trying to be flexible and do what we can to interpret the order in such a way that as many restaurants can stay open as possible. And so what we're doing with that is saying, for example, if you have a restaurant with just one very large open seating area or dining area, they can take measures to sort of break that up into either actual or physical separate rooms that would have 10 people each or less, or virtual. And they could do that virtually by removing some tables and creating enough space between these virtual dining spaces that would accomplish the same thing. Examples of physical barriers that they may want to consider using to create separate dining rooms are things like partitions or plastic or fabric sheeting, things like that. They can continue to operate, but the same restrictions on the number of people in any one given room apply to them as well.
Including employees. So if they have 5 employees, they can only allow 5 customers.
If it's in the same room. Now, if they have the capacity to physically separate people into separate rooms, then that opens that up to 10 per room. We're very sorry for the economic impact that this is having on you and your employees. There are residents, there are families, and it's a very difficult place for us to be in, where we have to balance the impact to the economy versus the potential threat to public health, and to understand that there are people feeding us information and sharing their opinions on both ends of that fence, and many times they're from polar opposite viewpoints. We're trying to take all that into consideration, but essentially it boils down to what the experts at the CDC and DSHS are telling us to do.